What's up, everybody? And Comexposed 2020. Our theme is Emerge. It's good to see you. I'm happy to be back on the stage. Today, I'll be talking to someone very special. As usual, I will be talking to people other than animators and our traditional artists. And I'm joined today by Blahtee Muchemwa, and I'm not going to take anything away from what this man does, but I'm sure if you're interested in monetizing content, this is the man you got to be listening to for this session. Blahtee, it's good to have you. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a long time coming. I was expecting that I'll be in Zimbabwe with you guys, but I guess we have to do this due to COVID. I'm happy to be here. Yeah, my name is Blahtee Muchemwa. I run a content distribution agency, and our main focus is obviously TV, which is commercial, digital, and mobile. So any content, music, videos, shows, whatever it is, that's what we do. You give it to us and we make sure we get it to the right places. So yeah, in a nutshell, that's pretty much what we do.
That's awesome. Let's start by starting at the beginning. I love to start at the beginning. Yeah. So can you give us a rough history of the kind of work you've done and why it's so important to content creators, not just musicians, but also guys working in our field making, multimedia content?
My story is pretty simple, and I really got into this business because when I started off in music. Music is what I did initially. And I was managing an artist back in the day. This was like 2014, 2015 time. So we had an incident where, we got on this program that we're working on called Coke Studio. It was a new concept. They just come to South Africa and they get a bunch of guys into the studio. They, create a song. But around that, the show was focusing on the actual creation. That's now where I started realizing what content was. So the show was, yes, about the song, but it was about what happens, what's the process that goes into actually creating a show, the drama, the writing, the collaborations and all that kind of stuff. And then after the show now, the artist that I was working with, we decided to shoot a music video. And after we shot this music video, we wanted to get it on TV, we wanted to get it online, but we just were struggling to do it. So I ended up just investigating myself and finding out what is the best possible way to get this content onto the different platforms. And that's how I then discovered that, okay, YouTube is a viable way to do it. At that time, not a lot of people were into YouTube. Also commercially, you look at your companies like MTV, Channel O, Trace, they play music videos all the time. But I wanted to understand what is the science, what is the mechanics behind, having your music on TV, and do people actually get paid? And only further down the line is when I actually started realizing that actually, you do get paid. So that's the backstory of how I got into content distribution.
Awesome. So, I can imagine there's so many young people watching this session right now and they're into music or they're creating content of whatever nature. And they're wondering, how hard is it to make it? And by that, I mean, what does it take to be an independent artist producing music or making content in your bedroom to actually being on a mainstream platform like the ones that you've managed to get some of your artists on?
So, when it comes to entertainment as a whole, entertainment is a double-edged sword. There's two aspects that always need to be focused on. The first one being the creative part, and then the second one being the business part. And I think in Africa, we've concentrated so much on the creative aspect that we haven't really taken the time to educate ourselves on the business aspect of it. And my advice to guys is that if you want to really start taking this thing a bit more serious, you're going to have to do the things that are tedious. And the things that are tedious is the administration, is the paperwork. Registering yourself as an artist for starters, registering yourself with the different boards that monetize, or the ones that check up on your money, or just the ones that administer to make sure that you get that money. And I always say this, that a lot of the money is in the metadata. If you can keep a record of what you're doing and take it to where it needs to go, in the future, you'll end up being able to monetize. So my suggestion is, take care of the paperwork, take care of the administration, take care of the things that no one else wants to do, the small little things, because that's where a lot of the money is actually involved.
Okay. Could you talk more? We've spoken about money. You've mentioned money and revenue so far. Can we talk more about these different monetization channels, the real nuts and bolts of it? What's out there? What are the options?
So, okay, so I'll speak on behalf of like just even, content creators, YouTubers, vloggers, guys who do music videos, when you create your content, I'll start with the music guys. So firstly, getting your stuff on YouTube, make sure that you actually open a YouTube page, you understand what YouTube is. You get to the analytics of what YouTube is, and you actually take the time to understand how you monetize. I understand that now you need to get to a certain number of hours until you start monetizing. But in order for you to do that, you need to be very intentional about it. You need to be intentional about growing your subscription base as well. Then when it comes to music, there are different kinds of digital distribution platforms, and there are distribution companies as well that take people's content onto these platforms. So don't just send someone your music and say, hey, can you help me get this on iTunes? Can you help me get this on Spotify? But actually find out that, okay, if I'm sending my music there, how do I track? The things I know for music, there's a system we use called the ISRC, which is a code.
Okay.
And basically once you get that code helps you monitor and track how your material is doing. Same thing when it comes to TV. Don't just send your stuff to TV hoping that they'll actually pick it up. Get in contact with producers, get in contact with guys who do acquisitions at the different networks. Find out what material they're sort of looking for. Find out what you can do to actually add value to these stations. And once you do that, they will now start being able to direct you in ways where you can now start monetizing, whether it's going to be doing promo work, whether it's going to be doing influencer work, but it all starts somewhere. You're not going to do a film immediately and you're going to monetize from that, So start small, work on your craft. At the same time, also make sure that you've got a team that understands exactly what your industry, how your industry monetizes. And once you start understanding how your industry monetizes, you start following the procedures. There's a protocol to this. You can't miss the steps.
Yeah.
And so many times we want to create this product. It's hot. We want to get it on, the TV stations or on YouTube or on Netflix or on Showmax, but we don't understand what it actually takes for it to get there. So take time to actually study the different platforms, and all of this information is available on the internet.
So how can music producers access these opportunities to get their work, acknowledged or recognized by these major platforms or producers or that kind of thing?
So with producers, it's a different ball game, because with producers, a lot of their money comes in through publishing.
Yeah.
So once you understand the world of publishing, because you understand, it's literally you creating a product that you may not necessarily use yourself, and it could be used by someone else, or it could be licensed by someone else. So if you have a publisher that you use, whether it's going to be Sony or even an independent, or you want to self-publish yourself, the important thing is making sure that your catalog is registered, and whether you're going to be doing it through Zamura, you're going to be doing it through Samuel, make sure that every single piece of work that you're making is documented. Because once you get that ready, and a publishing company comes or an artist comes or whatever, it's going to be easier for you to then get through the process, because the last thing you want is for your admin not to be ready. You get a major artist who comes in and says, hey, I love your work. Can we work together? You send them their work. their stuff is sorted out. You know, they've got people behind the scenes that are working on their things. They blow up, you don't get included, you know. So really understand what the world of publishing is. And from there, just make sure that everything you're doing is documented. Always keep an Excel sheet of all the songs that you're producing. Make sure that you write the splits. If you work with other people on them as well, make sure that everyone gets a fair revenue, you know, so that when the money does start coming in, everyone gets their equal share.
All right, so I'm gonna take you back just a little bit. So you touched on something quite sensitive. I guess what you're referring to are like music rights and the legal side of things, right?
Yeah.
So can you kind of, for the young 15-year-old kid out there or 16-year-old newcomer who wants to be a SoundCloud rapper, who also wants to protect the rights to his work, can you kind of delve deeper into what these organizations you just mentioned do, like Zemura? And of course, most of these independent artists can't afford lawyers. What can they do, or how can they kind of get information on how to get better or be more informed about the legal side of protecting their work? So you can start with the
so yeah, so the first thing is protecting your IP being your intellectual property. If you create something, you want to have it on record that you own it. And once you register with these organizations, and these organizations will take you through a step-by-step of what they actually do and how they protect artists. So I know that in Zimbabwe, it's Zemura. In South Africa, we use an organization called SAMRO. And these organizations, it's the South African, Music Rights Association. So, and in Zim is the Zimbabwe Music Rights Organization. So it's basically in a nutshell just saying that, listen, I've registered with Zemura, which now means that I am actually a composer, right? This is what I do professionally. That's the first step. The second step now is then sending in your work, and what they call it is notification of work. So every time you create something, you basically send them an email, or sometimes you might have to go into the office or whatever. But you basically registering and saying that, listen, this is the song that I've done, and these are the people that I've worked with. So-and-so owns this percentage, so-and-so owns this percentage, I own this percentage. Once that is done, right, the rights of that song are now legal. So that's the first step. So if anyone then comes to you and says that, hey, we want to either work with you, or we want to license, or, and these are now like different conversations when it comes to like licensing and publishing and stuff. But for the 15-year-old, you want to make sure that anything that you're putting on the internet, you can always track it back to yourself. So if it's going to be a SoundCloud thing, you want to make sure that it's been done by you, all the paperwork, all the metadata that's been entered, all the sheets that you're sending in have got your name on it, have got your identification on it. So that when it's time for them to pay out, your name is the one that's the same as the one that's been handed in. So that's for me is basically the first step. And once you get this right, like I said, that this is one of the most tedious things to do, because people always feel like, no, I've done this, I want to get it out, I want everyone to listen to it. The first thing you need to do is always just protect yourself. And once you protect yourself like that, anything that comes, after that is just now a matter of what direction you want to take it.
Wow. Okay, so earlier on you mentioned splits, like profits, and how those are split, and how each artist should have like an Excel sheet and so on. I guess those percentages vary. Is there like a source or a reference point where each artist can always look up what the going, let's say, for lack of a better word, the going rates are, so that, the right percentage is always allocated, they keep up with the trends in terms of how to do a profit share with whether it's their agent, their producer, promoters and things like that? How does that actually work, and how do they get that kind of information?
So the thing is, now that's where now the creative aspect comes in, because I think if you're creating something with people, you want to give everyone a fair share, and I think everyone is entitled to what they contribute. So if you and I and Keith decide to get into a studio and write a song, and Keith produces the song, you write the song, you know what I'm saying, and then I come and I sing on the song. These are three different types of contributions that have been made. So for the actual, melody, there's its own split share that's there. And then for the actual composition and lyrics, there's its own split share that's there. And then for the performance, there's its own split share that's there. So once you're able to actually determine that, okay, Keith is the one who owns, or whoever owns 100% of the melody, you own 100% of the words, and I own 100% of the performance, those are some of like the standard guidelines. That's actually the standard guidelines. It's always the melody, the composition, and the performance. So those are the key things that you always need to watch out for when you're creating a song. And I think it's just now being fair, because like it's something that is only beginning to be exercised now. It's something we haven't been doing for a very long time. I'll give you the story of, even back in the day, you look at guys like Chamembe. Those guys produced amazing projects, but there's no documentation. So even now, if you want to license or you want to redistribute, it's very difficult because there's no record of who contributed what at that time. So those are the three things that are important: the melody, the words, and the performance.
Wow. So people love case studies. Are you able to share any success stories that you can point out to and say, what, this was done right? This is a great example of, the creative, the execution, the delivery, from, the creative side all the way to actually creating a viable artistic product?
I think, there's the most recent one I think I can talk about is with Mr. Camera and Fryer. They worked on a Netflix series called Blood and Water, and they were published by this local company in South Africa called ACA, which is African Creative Agency. So, from the beginning, I think when the call came in, saying that they're interested in making a soundtrack for the actual series, Mr. Camera is the one who composed the melody of it, and Fry is the one who wrote, and all the paperwork was done, all the material was sent, they got a nice check, and for as long as that series is going to be played, and there's a season 2 that's coming up now, which is kind of like in production. I know one of the things that we're trying to like, that was on the cards, was actually turn it into a full song, because it was just like a 30-45 second clip of the title track, and people started requesting, hey, we want a full song, we want a full song, we want a full song. Wow. So for season 2, I'm not saying much, but that's something that you can look forward to. That's from a content point of view when it comes now full circle, when it's now the music, the melody, and then, the different platforms.
Yeah.
So that's the most recent case I can talk about. I can go all the way back to, even with when I worked with Radio Fiend, when we did Coke Studio, we owned 100% of the composition. And then we licensed it to the company that was producing the show. So every time, we still get our royalty splits till this day, for something that happened in 2015. And I'm just glad that at that point, we were able to actually understand how it works. And with, everything that we're releasing time and time, and even the guys that I'm working with now, I'm always encouraging them to, let's get the paperwork done first. And then after that, we start looking for ways to monetize. So there are definitely lots of opportunities that are there. We're still also in our growing phase as a company. Like I said, we're just concentrating on music at first, but now we ventured as well into like, online platforms. We're venturing into TV. And recently we've started working on some mobile campaigns. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. Okay. What is your opinion on the future of mobile as a distribution platform for music and African content? It looks like that is the most enticing
Yeah.
space at the moment. What are your thoughts on that?
So when it comes to mobile is the lowest hanging fruit right now. If I can be honest with you, and it's been a business that has been looked at as a dying business. And when I say mobile, I'm talking about like ringback, caller tunes, because mobile also now then comes with digital, which is your streaming platforms. But I feel like, the guys at the different networks, you look at your MTNs, you look at your Vodacoms, even in Zimbabwe, you look at Econet, I feel like they really have some great plans. It's just now how they're going to involve the content creator, how they're going to fairly pay the content creator, because that's also another issue that we've been facing where a lot of guys have got great material, but we just don't have these companies coming to the table when it now comes when it comes time to monetize. So you'll see that either guys will end up giving away their content for close to nothing, or they'll just rather just release it for free, which is not helping us as content creators at the end of the day. So those are the things, and those are the conversations now that we need to start having as content creators, where we have to get these guys to really come to the table and see the value that we bring. And to be honest with you, I think they do know the value. They just don't want to pay. And until we are united as content creators, they're just gonna go to the next guy. If I come and I say I want X amount of money for this particular content, they're gonna just go look for someone else who's cheaper, and give them something that's not even close to as quality as what I was going to do. But for them, they feel like they've just got the job done. So we also need to get united in how we educate ourselves. We need to be honest as well about how we're getting paid.
Yeah.
There's no reason we should be hiding how much we getting paid, because it just makes things more difficult. So there's a future for it, but we definitely need to all work together.
Awesome. So I think this will be my last question. I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of artists make mistakes that even a guy like myself who isn't into music production and distribution look at it and be like, that's curious. For example, I know of a few guys who've been at it for 5 years, maybe longer, and they have 67 views on YouTube, and they got rather questionable things. And I'm sure from your perspective, exactly what they're getting wrong, right? So my question to you is, what's your biggest pet peeve? What's the number one thing that really grinds your gears when you see, artists from our region, repeating that same mistake, and you're like, that's the one thing you shouldn't be getting wrong at this stage. For you, what is it?
Guys don't listen. Guys don't, and it's really that simple, and it's not even a pet peeve anymore, because it's not that. So there are two things actually. Number one, it's that guys don't listen. The second thing is that guys don't want to educate themselves, right? And I'll give you a perfect example, right? Guys will go out of their way to create opportunities for guys to learn, but because they feel like I'm a celebrity now, they're just not going to pitch up to the workshop. It's that simple. There's so much for us to learn. Even for me right now, like every day I have to dedicate time to learning something about the industry that I'm in, because out of the hundreds of years that entertainment has been alive, we need to understand the history of where entertainment started. We need to understand the history of film. We need to understand the history of animation. We need to understand the history of music, all of these things. And we need to understand that from where it started to where we are now, what has been the progression? Entertainment is the one industry that is constantly evolving. Like what we're talking about right now may not be relevant in the next 2 years. Someone may create some. Cell phones were not a thing. Not so long. 15 years ago, cell phones were not a thing. But now we cannot live without our cell phones.
Yeah. A few
You know what
years
I'm
ago,
saying? So
DVDs and ECDs were a thing, and where are
we're
they
a
now?
thing, you know? So now I can literally leave my house with my cell phone. I don't need to carry my wallet or whatever because I know that anything that I need to do, I can do it on my cell phone. So if we're not taking the time to constantly be innovative in what we're doing and constantly trying to seek new opportunities, you know, and challenging ourselves as well, because for as long as we have guys sitting behind desks the whole day who have no idea what's actually happening on the streets, you know, and on the internet, we're never going to be able to then crack this code, you know, and there's no reason right now why we're still back, you know.
Yeah,
We should have a very, you know, viable and stable economy right now when it comes to entertainment, and especially in Zim. We had it before. So
yeah,
what happened? We just
yeah,
stopped being innovative. We stopped listening, and we stopped growing with the world. So
yeah,
that's yeah. You know, and like I said, that the opportunities that are there
yeah,
for guys. You
yeah.
know, it's also how much they want it.
Yeah,
You know,
that sounds
so
that's an interesting point. That's an interesting
yeah,
point. I know I said I was gonna ask you one last question, but the moment you
yeah.
said that, I thought of something else, which was right now the Nigerian music industry is, it's got a global impact.
Booming.
They've got names across the board that are now household names. In terms of the things you've just discussed, which ones are the areas where they have excelled that you wish, the Southern African side, like Zambia, Zimbabwe, South Africa, could maybe learn from?
Risk.
Wow.
It's a risk game. Those guys are not scared to go anywhere. You know, those guys back in the day, I remember, you know, when I was also starting out, a lot of these guys, and even how I then got in a lot into Afro beats, I used to host these guys when they used to come
Mhm.
to South Africa because they would come from Nigeria to come here to shoot music videos because they understood that no, the quality of production in South Africa is way better than what we
Mm.
have. Then they got to a point where they now started bringing their guys here to come and learn.
Wow.
So now they've just taken that same model, they're doing it in the UK, now they've gone to the USA, they're in Canada, they're in Australia, they're everywhere. So there's no way you're going to be able to take people to a place you've never been yourself if we don't expose ourselves. You know, if we're comfortable here, how many Zimbabwean artists, just not even going out of their way, how many Zimbabwean artists are going to Mozambique, which
Mm.
is right across the, you know,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Mutare, next thing you're in Mozambique. How
Yeah.
many guys are going there to actually collaborate with artists? How many guys are going down to Zambia? How many guys are going to Botswana, you know, Angola, Malawi?
Mhm.
You know, we've got very few guys that I can actually think about
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
this moment. So we really need to expose ourselves and our art because
Yeah.
you know we're only gonna get better if
Yeah.
we want to do better. You know, and as long as we're playing for the same people week in, week out, you know, we're not gonna go far.
Yeah.
That's the honest truth. So, you know, let's really, you know, be very intentional about how we want to expose ourselves, how we want to, you know, where we want our music to go, who's actually responsible for all of those things, and then we can actually get there. You know, but yeah, it's a risk game. If we
Yeah.
don't take any risks, we're not gonna. And you guys have, you know, taken risks. You guys are doing comics in Africa. You know what I'm saying? You're doing
Yeah.
animation in Africa,
Yeah.
but it's gonna take time. But we need to start somewhere.
You know what? That's those are definitely words I'll take with me for the rest of my life. I think you're definitely right. If you don't risk, you will rust. So on
Yeah.
that note, it's been absolutely awesome having you. I'm
Thank
sure
you
it's been
so much,
beneficial.
guys.
There'll be lots of questions we'll probably be able to send your way. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for joining us, and we hope to have you again next year.
Yes,
So.
please. Next year, can you make sure that we're in one place, please?
Now
It's
there's
time.
talk of
Yeah.
a vaccine. There's talk of a vaccine. We should be fine.
Yeah, we're tired, eh? Honestly, I'm tired of being in indoors. I'm
Yeah.
ready to leave. Yeah, but yeah, let's. You know, I'm excited as well. You know, thank you for the opportunity as well to be able to speak. I know many people don't really understand what we do and what we're trying to do, but we really just out here trying to, you know, educate and, you know, provide our skills to make sure that people get better. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Thank you very much, everyone who's joined us. And we hope you stick around for the next talk. That's definitely going to be on the same platform. My name is Eugene, and I've been speaking to Blahtee Muchemwa. And yeah, stick around for more Emerge 2020. Peace.
Thank you.